Greetings and salutations, everyone. How we doing?
Hello.
Talking about the fact that comeuppance is coming. Well, like I said, you can only outrun comeuppance for so long. So the amount of comeuppance they have coming is kind of like a tidal wave now, ain't it?
Oh yeah. Hopefully they can swim, surf, do whatever is necessary to get where they feel they should be. And there is quite a lot of distance between where they are and, well, where they may end up. So, for the record of some small note, this is our play group for the evening. This is our coterie. These few brave, few brothers in arms, sisters in struggle, this is what we have for the evening. Our other player is indisposed. And they gave notification on last Friday that they would be otherwise indisposed. They're attending to family issues and will be joining us again next week. Well, next episode. While discussing repercussions and consequence and all those many things that the coterie is hoping to outrun either directly or indirectly, did everyone bring everyone else up to speed on where we were, or had anyone had the opportunity to glimpse our last episode's playthrough?
I believe we are up to speed.
I listened to it, but it was, a week ago. Plus, I'm not involved with last week's episode, so I don't need to be.
Oh, yes. Well, there is that, but there's also everything is connected. This is unlike Marvel's initial foray into TV episodic shows and dramas, loose dark comedies. Everything really is connected in our little world that we share it. The ramifications of what happens in Chicago affects everywhere else, and the ramifications of what happens everywhere else affect Chicago, usually in small little ways. But as the camel can tell you, it is not the 100,000 other straws that breaks its back. It is that final, last, minute, minuscule weight of the final straw. And no one knows when that might fall. No one knows when the last one is the last one that causes a groundswell of events to circle and potentially drown our coterie members. So, connected though we are, with our hard start slipping past us, I'd like to dive right in if you guys are amenable.
Let's go.
I'm funky.
Excellent. So that being understood that there are no further questions, suggestions, hypotheses, or corners we need to round off, I'd like to extend my thanks, because I'm sure you all know that I really, really enjoy play. I really enjoy the lives that we get a chance to experience, how they're different from one setting to the next, and how they interrelate. All of that is just the food of the gods for me. It is the ambrosia that keeps what little bit of youth I have left viable. So again, thank you all. As far as our episode, our evening tonight, just reprieve from our actual lives, this is officially In the Shadow of the White City, Season 6, our second episode, The Meadow of a Princess's Father. Now, when we last left our coterie and the efforts of their actions, Muzan, Dancer Dan, and Frost were at play in a miasmic swell of vitae. It has never been an issue for Muzan being a little monstrous. If push came to shove, to be perfectly honest, it has never been an issue for either of the three kindred in that space to be monstrous, though some adhere to an ideal of bestial fury and animal justice. Others just know that it is a dog-eat-dog world. Not the original quote that not even dog eats dog, but the modern corporatized idea that it is a dog-eat-dog world, meaning that the world is bad enough that even the honorable, lowly dog will commit to acts of cannibalism to assure their safety, their continued existence, and hell, just for pleasure. Which turned the quote from being a call to an honorable accord of some sense that even the lowly dog wouldn't do the things that are being proposed, and so too we should not. Those days were long gone before they even began. So those three, the most viscerally animalistic and okay with the law of the jungle, are sampling blood that is neither the heady, spicy, salty mix of someone in the midst of the throes of passion, nor the super saccharine, sweet, sour notes of someone in the throes of depression. It is the first time in their short and long existences as kindred where they are sampling blood that is the perfect zero state. There are no added pollutants from a life hard lived. There are no added sweeteners from a life being wasted in the grip of one passion or one poison after another. No, this is blood that is as close to completely innocent of life as anything can be, devoid of the heights of passions and anger, lusts and fury, and devoid of the depressive state that soon follow, as many, in common parlance and mean culture, the post-nut clarity. None of those pollutants are in the blood, and it flows sweetly and all too freely for them. While across town, Zach stands outside of the Pisketeers, awaiting a delivery, the arrival of donors willing to divest the stuff that makes them, the life juice that keeps the machine that they are in operation, trained to do so by the dedicated hands of Silk. Lives that they have purchased from Silk. Lives that they went into partnership with Silk to ensure that these mortals would be on premise to offer themselves to the discerning kindred that are able to pay for their services. Now, if it was just kindred, it would be a matter of just the blood. But there aren't just kindred who know of the speakeasy that is the truth of the Pisketeers. There are local would-be someones, politicians, local stars, celebrities of all strata, who up until recently had access to the larders of the Pisketeers. Then we draw past Zach through the neighborhood sports bar motif and thematics of the upstairs of the Pisketeers, down the hidden stairs into the Pisketeers proper, the actual true speakeasy that is its namesake, where Stella has launched forward into motion like an arrow loosed from a bow, rushing towards Stella, rushing towards the person they most recently cared the second most in the entirety of the world about. Possessed as they are of their beast, newly risen, there is a call to that last vestige of mortality, that last bit of actual care and consideration. And while they sprint across the floor, all but ignoring Dia and the matron of the house, Dia summons the full weight of her presence and leashes it like a weapon towards Stella in an attempt to drive her forward from the room. We initially had decided there would be a role. But in truth, in point of fact, just at the base mechanics, the truth of the matter is that even as successful as Dia could be, the order of operations would be physical, then discipline, then firearm. Which means Stella, in her youthful, reckless, monstrous abandon, would be colliding with the preternaturally frightened, fearful prey that is Faye. So we won't be rolling. We'll be dealing with the consequences of Stella crashing into Faye, tumbling across the room, fangs bared, undead strength on the full vent. But first, return an eye to a now shuttered detective's office, a former detective's office. It is through a 4-story building's basement access, down some stairs, under a little alcove and up a few others to descend once more into a relatively classic glass door. It's frosted glass. You can't see what goes on inside, merely that something is. On the door, there is no name. It's clearly been peeled off freshly because the space where the lettering is lighter than every other facet of that door, as if there hasn't really been much cleaning done to it over the years. Inside the space that is festooned and hung with the remnants of a life that stretched decades into the past, we find Dax Anastas. The door cracked ajar as she waits. Patiently, some would say. Others would notice the quirking of a lip, the mild anger at being all but summoned, the mild anger at the job needs doing, but does she need to be the one to do the job? Sitting there as she waits. The shadows gather as always, the theatrics ratchet up several notches. The world quiets, the outside noises, the room noises of the building, the generator in the back, the transformers that they have as redundancies, and most importantly, the humming, chugging of the furnace that is still even operational during this late summer's evening. All of that disappears. The world silences itself as if it dare not even breathe, letting her know that, well, her handlers have arrived. Some remnant, some vernacular from her old life refuses to leave her because they prefer the idea of being called muftis or shahs or several other titles that she has not spared the time or brain capacity to ever truly memorize. And as expected, where she least expects them to appear is where they do, including in this particular situation actually walking through the creaky door without it making a sound, making sure that it's closed behind them as they look about the space. One moves to the far end of the room and settles onto the old, well-used couch, and the other sits on the corner of the desk. The gentleman on the couch is of an older variety. They don't make his features anymore. One of the few things that have died out last century that just has not made a resurgence. The genes still there in the populace, just, well, the right sort of people haven't gotten together to produce that outcome in so very long. He's tanned, even in death. His skin far darker than one would expect something that has not seen the sunlight in at least a century or more. His eyes, a sandy gray, never quite refracting the light in the dim light in the room. They sit near pinpricks, watching her and the young lady on the desk. She is another matter entirely. She's wholly a modern woman, tall, clearly athletic, dressed in a two-piece suit that does not minimize her ability by being shorts or culottes or rising above the ankle as most women's suits do, these days. No, it is a full pant. It goes right to the top of her shoe, and it drapes nicely without being baggy. Her shirt, bright white, nearly gleaming in the dark. The only affectation denoting that she may not be, as she seems, a simple professional, are the gloves. They are a deep burgundy, well used and clearly oiled on a near consistent basis. They don't show any of the cracks or wears or tears that most people ignore. Both of them sans adornment, no jewelry or anything that denotes their station. The better to blend in with the populace, or at least a certain strata of the populace. The woman looks toward the man looks toward the woman, and then they both finally settle their gaze on Dax. Sister Dax, I'm sure that you are aware as to everything that is happening, or some of the things that are in this particular area. We've lost our brother Dwayne recently.
And my condolences. I assume that's why I've been brought here.
One of many, yes. Dwayne had a project that he was in the midst of before his untimely disappearance. We are under the understanding that the Voivod of the South may be the culprit. There's no definitive proof, especially one such as he, for all of his martial skills, should be able to stand against Dwayne. Mr. Mitchell was skilled in certain existence-ending abilities. We initially thought foul play, but there's no proof one way or the other. He simply ceases to be. And the gossip is, as always, ungainly in the sheer volume of it.
Very well. So, I am to find your fallen comrade, or just deal with the cause?
Both, if you are able. The former, if that is all you might attend. There is a coming storm that we fear is far in excess of what this small blip of nothing can tolerate. There's a reason why these things are all happening so very close to the capital city. The last time there was a convergence such as this, close to this, Chicago lost its one defining prince. The last time things were converging as they are now, Milwaukee lost its one residing prince. The last time things were progressing as they are now, it turned out that the then true Seneschal of Washington was in fact a member of the Lasombra. The last time things are progressing as they are now. Our blood was bound in the most insulting manner possible. It is always the small things. It is always those things that most choose to ignore that leads to the greatest catastrophe. We've lost in these last 2 years 4 members of our blood in this area. One we hope to be tracking shortly. They've been seen, or at least words of them have been seen, travailing the southern coast, and we are headed there shortly. The other simply disappeared, believed, taken by lupines. Why would they take him instead of end him? We are not entirely sure, but we are reaching out and working our best to find a diplomatic way to resolve that situation. Dwayne, however, was the captain in this area of our mission. As wild beast we are, less beast we become, we need not be monsters. And he was assuring that this place, this foothold, this beachhead remained our beachhead, utilizing the Dom as the point of our spear, ensuring that the kindred in this small, teetering berg left as light a footprint on the world as possible. Him being removed and his information disappearing is problematic.
As always, it seems like you have a number of concerns you would like me to look into.
Things tend to overlap, one thread to the next, until you find the exact right thread to cut or pull, or sew better into place so that it might not be pulled by those you wish not to have access. There are several growing concerns, several potential leaders in the area that might be useful in keeping the Boabad from doing what we fear. We fear that his present state as the most powerful kindred in this realm will lead to something disastrous. He needs a counterbalance. He needs something to keep his natural barbarity from growing beyond any ability to control. Sadly, a direct assault is too costly, it's too prohibitive, and would cost an undue amount of lives and an undue amount of mortality wasted to end something we might be able to use. Why break the sword when you can hone it? We need steel to sharpen steel and to make sure that it is aimed where we need it to be. With your education being as it is, we believe you might be just the sister for this job, for this mission. The question remains, Dax, will you act as balance to ensure that justice is served?
You know that I would always endeavor to do no less.
Yes, but some things must be said aloud. Words give power to intentions. And with that, she stands, reaching into her breast pocket, removing a simple, easily purchasable notebook from the dollar store. Not one of the large composition notebooks. No, just a simple flip with the plastic wire. They come in red, blue, green, and all of the basic primary colors. But this one clearly shows age. Its corners have lost color. Some of the pages have gnarled and frayed, and otherwise been clearly moved, looked through, and handled for quite some time. She looks at it as if she is handing you a loaded gun, or worse yet, a sleeping viper. The gentleman on the couch nods his head in agreement, and she offers it to you. She extends it to you. Exactly as you would suspect someone might be offering a loaded weapon with the safety off. Exactly as you would someone who's attempting not to awaken a poison asp. Exactly as you would something extraordinarily far more dangerous than it seems.
She will quirk a brow and then hesitantly reach out for it, feeling the gravity of whatever it is she's being given.
As the notebook is accepted, paper gets lighter over time. It's one of the many things that most don't really notice until you notice it in comparison to freshly milled paper. While every type of paper has its own weight inherent to it, even those equally milled, they lose weight. They lose bits of themselves from being handled and utilized, or simply just sitting in some drawer for years. They grow lighter, fainter, and the writing on them, the ink on them, if there is ink and not graphite, grows fainter. Certain things become harder to make out. And so as you're handed this 80-page notebook, this small little notebook you might see as a prop at some cop show, you realize that it's lighter than it should be. Because while 80 is no small matter, paper is not all that heavy, there is a certain expectation of weight that is not there. There is a certain physical gravitas that you are expecting that is not there. And that, for those with an understanding of the history of spycraft, tradecraft, you know that this is akin to the president's football. You know, this is akin to something that has been handed down and taken by hand time and time again. The information herein is the sort that most don't utilize in tradecraft anymore. It is literally someone somewhere sitting at a bar, sitting at a table, sitting on a park bench, making carefully coded notes in a notebook on someone. And in this case, 80 pages of history jotted down, 80 pages of coded intelligence, front and back, of the area and several individuals therein, notable individuals.
Is there a place I should start with this, or is that part of the game?
The game is, in fact, afoot, and yes, there is a place you should start. You should always start with the fisher of men. I'm not sure how much you are aware of this area. This was the demilitarized zone. This was the no man's land between Chicago and Gary during their wars, during the war of cities. Milwaukee backed Chicago because they had no choice. Loudoun held the Prince of Milwaukee in very little respect, but treated him as if he was in fact the hero he pretended to be. He flattered him. He kept him chained with adornments. But a chain is still a chain. And while minimizing and mitigating Milwaukee, Loudoun turned his sights to Modius and Gary. He broke the unions. He broke the trades. He broke the foundries and every opportunity that Modius seized upon to resurrect his city, to bring life into his city. And then Loudoun did the most dangerous thing you could do. He kept the pressure on, nettling a sleeping tiger. He took his foot off of Modius's neck. He allowed Modius to revel in the destruction of his hand. All the while pushing, driving the anarchs out of Chicago into Gary, allowing a double-pronged attack, Modius's might and the anarch's rage to keep Modius as the lesser. Loudoun, for all of his malice, was a relative strategic genius, because in the midst of all of that, in his machinations to declare Chicago the prime city, the capital city of the Tower, he allowed this space to exist as a duty-free zone. Kindred could come here and feed as they wish. Anarchs could pilfer the area. This acting as a buffer between Gary and Chicago, where everyone and anything that chose to attack Chicago would be caught off guard by the lawlessness therein. They'd be swallowed up. They'd either be absorbed into the fabric of the whole or driven forth because they couldn't understand the madness therein. Because while everyone else thought that Dalton and the collar counties and the suburbs herein were free, Loden struck a deal of protection for all of the local barons, the free thinkers, those that would stand on their own. He offered them the protection of the hounds of the city. He offered them the protection of the tower without ever accepting them into the tower. So moving against a Dom or a Baron or a Don or whatever title they chose meant they were moving against Chicago. And there's nothing worse than being caught off guard by several skilled, angry hounds raining hellfire down on your head. And now all of that is gone. The structures are still in place to be reinitiated. But Jackson, unfortunately, is far too modern to sink to that Machiavellian way of thinking. Never again shall we see the type of Prince Asmodean, as Loden or Modius, or the Dom Geneva, that political wariness and understanding that there must be checks and balances for all things, and planning 4 steps ahead so that one might lose 1, even 2 easily, without demanding all-out war. I miss those days. I miss those princes. I miss the kindred that would do enough nostalgia. You have information there, and if I were you, I would start at the Prince, the Fisher of Men. I believe the place is called the Piscateers, but this name has changed several times over the last few decades. It is still a Toreador establishment, so dress appropriately. And with that, the two leave the office, and suddenly the sound of the building, the settling of the floors, the furnace, the boiler, the transformers, all of those sounds begin filling the space once more. It's only as they leave that you realize that you miss the electric hum of the lights above your head. They too having been silenced through some means.
She will thumb through the notebook looking for anything that catches her eye as she stands up and decides to change out of her business suit into something that might be less attention grabbing as a narc in a club.
Well, you can always go to James Bond route. Introduce yourself as a state-hired assassin there to spend a little R&R time getting to know all of the bad people.
Then we can escape on snowmobiles.
Don't forget the parachute with the Queen's flag on it and all that good stuff. You need a theme song, of course, something very classy and to the point. I'm thinking banjos and the Emperor's theme for Star Wars.
Well, as much as she hates it, she'll make herself girly and go to this, head out to this club, keeping the notebook with her so she can thumb through it while she Ubers or whatever she needs to do to get there.
As Dia watches, Stella all but shouldered through the matron, sending her sprawling on the floor. As Dia watches Faye's face crack open for the first time in real, honest, earnest emotion, not just in her voice, but the fear of God himself settle in as the directed efforts of Dia's presence hits Faye as if it is a bat. What is it that she does? As Stella and Faye crash, the scent of fear-laden blood floating up into the air around her. The matron sprawled, one shoulder bare, a dejected look flittering across her face.
Dia looks at the matron. And goes for Stella because she is not going to let her drink Faye. So trying to hold on to her, trying to get her arms around her waist and pull her away. Looking at the matron, it's not personal. It's not personal at all. She's new. She's brand new, just born. She doesn't know what she's doing. Help me pull her away.
The matron's already on her feet, moving to help you, locking an arm under Stella's shoulder, an underhook. It's surprising and well placed. It's somehow the matron has a few more skills than had been hinted at. As you two work against Stella, I'm going to need you to roll for your efficacy. Would you be so kind as to roll your strength plus brawl plus 1? And where is Dia's actual hunger in the moment?
One sec, let me check that because it should be on the last rolls. She's at 3, so it's not good. It's not terrible, but it's not good.
No. No, it's not terrible, and it could be good. It's been a very long time since you've drunken someone who is as mellow as Faye normally is. Yes, she's normally mellow because of her altered state, but with all of the insanity that's been foisted onto these two young girls, it is surprising that they have not mentally snapped. It is surprising that they have not retreated into a land that doesn't exist. It is surprising exactly how well they have been able to stomach the revelations that vampires exist, to stomach the revelations that even them, with all of their honor, morals, and ethics, could be killers. Even them who have aspired and espoused the social reform of the world around them, willing to put their freedom at risk and jeopardy, they didn't break. They didn't shatter into 1,000,001 pieces.
You said it was strength and brawl?
Yes, plus 1.
I am going to also rouse the blood because I don't have brawl.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to answer. I know it's probably really, really stupid, but we gonna do it anyway. We good. We're at 3. So
we like that. Tempt the beast. Lean into it. Use it.
I mean, what's the worst that can happen? No, 30. I'm not gonna ask that. So that's 3, 4 total. Let me see. Gotta be absolutely sure though. Yeah, 2 strength. Wait, do you get 1 die or 2 when you rouse the blood?
2.
Okay, so that's 4. 5. Okay. 5 minus the. I'm at 3. Everything. 300. There we go. 4.
You pull, and the matron pulls, and despite her new, unbridled, undead strength, going balls to the wall, leaving it all out there to get more than just a lick, just get more than a simple taste, pull her away as her fangs break flesh, the blood splattering her lips, her tongue lashing out instinctively, and the fear that has gripped Faye, combined with the burgeoning steps of the magic of the kiss, leave her splayed, staring at the ravening beast that is Stella, her sister from another mother. The fact that it takes the two of you, sturdily built, strong, athletic women, to hold such a small, frail thing is defeating. All of that calm, all of that much vaunted willfulness that has kept her mostly sane and here in the moment, every step of the way falling away as salty tears fill the space that is now mixing with the scent of her blood. Stella was strong, is strong, even more so as a kindred, because she's not holding back. She's not trying to control herself. She's not trying to not scare anyone. She's not trying to not hurt anyone. In fact, just the opposite. And it's only as she's struggling and the matron has her left arm and you have her around the waist and her right arm that she realizes, well, diseased blood is not as good as fresh, but any port in the storm and sinks her teeth into the matron.
While that's somewhat of a problem, that's kind of what we wanted her to do anyway, but I am going to keep an absolute eye on how far that goes, and if the matron starts to look weak at any point, I'm going to attempt to break them apart. Hopefully once she gets some blood in her, she'll start to calm down. Looking back at Faye, now this time I'm going to drop Dread Gaze. I'm going to try to be a little more gentle with Faye this time, because she's already scared. And looking at Faye,
the exact word that you're looking for is not scared. It is petrified. It is catatonic in what she has just witnessed firsthand.
Hey, darling, I need you to leave. I am so sorry. We will get this under control, and then we will bring your friend Stella out to see you once she has calmed down. But right now, I need you and your lovely self to be as far away from us as you can. Go find Zach, if you would please. I think they are outside, possibly. Okay, thank you. And I refocus myself on Stella so that Stella does not drink the matron to death.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing that I'm not sure anyone has really thought of. It's been so long for Dia, and it's been so long since having an actual child. Frost is not her child. Frost is sorry to be clannish, but Frost is a ganger. Frost is at his best self in finding some animalistic way of existing at peace. The law of the jungle very much is Frost. Zach can tell you that in regards to their child, or their newborn, that is no longer in existence. Frost has the urge to protect, even at the cost of killing that which he finds offensive. So his feeding hasn't been something that truly has been an issue for Dia. As a member of the clan of the Rose, as a hedonist, there's a certain class that is demanded. There's a certain way. Even as messily as some members of the clan feed, there is a table manners present. There isn't a savaging. There's no multiple bites along the donor as if they are an ear of corn. There's just a elevated way that the children are taught to feed. And while sure Dia would get around to it, in the moment, that hasn't been a lesson that's been given. And only as she watches the savaging, the multiple bites that are happening. It's not a bite, clamp down, and lap. That skill hasn't quite been learned yet. It is eating at the flesh, and the pleasurable aspects of the kiss have begun to fall away as the flesh is savaged, as the blood is gulped and guzzled and sucked from the bits of flesh that are taken in those bites. The matron, the second bite, she was able to keep her hold and not give completely over to the kiss. But even with the way that Stella is attempting to feed, the kiss is a magical thing. Each bite and injection of those fangs causes the kiss to hit. And as one wave is beginning to fall away and the matron might be able to come to herself, the next bite hits. And as the matron is trying to swim to the surface of that pleasure, to monitor it, to mediate it, to measure it out so that she can, when it gets to the heart-slowing aspect of the kiss, to fight free. But every moment, every time that it's just about to the point where she can manage the pleasure of it, another bite happens, another bit of flesh, another bite happens, another bit of flesh. So 5 bites in that we are in these last few seconds, and it is clear there's only one recourse, there's only one outcome for this. The amount of flesh loss alone would be needing surgery. The blood loss is only partially satiating Stella because a lot of it is lost in the sheer tissue damage. And Faye is catatonic. That scream that she needs, that itch that is there that needs to be released is not coming. And so she's frozen in that moment, watching what it's like and seeing the savagery unleashed, seeing that willful child that is her friend, that is her sister without blood, be this ravening beast. Instead of helping that scream that she needs, that cathartic release, is stuffing it further and further down. Those are the lips that she had her first kiss with. Those are the eyes that watched her cry over her first heartbreak. Those fingers sinking deeper and deeper into that woman's skin, are the fingers that have held her through their stint in jail. They're being assaulted by a SWAT team and drug out like terrorists. Those hands that she's interlaced with time and time again when standing down some asshole at her party. That girl that she always saw as the better version of herself be this thing. Instead of helping that scream escape, is shoving it further and further down, sinking it like a weight or an anchor.
Realizing that Dia is going to need something to stop this, they are in her room, so she knows what she kind of thinks she might have there. And being that this is partially a kink club, what she is going to look for is one of those weird gags that have the hole in it, but hold the mouth open.
So stepping away from the matron, being savaged by Stella, and moving wide of Faye, stuck, forced to watch by some invisible chain, Dia begins rummaging through drawers that have been tastefully and classily hidden so they can be viewed as invisible. But she knows where they are. Not exactly what's in them, because things move and people use things as different. And so it's not exactly where it initially should be. Because for her, she would have kept it close enough to the bed to reach, and far enough that it won't be in the way. So that drawer where that gag and the ball gag and then the full sensory deprivation mask should be has been moved, and that's a problem she'll get to later. But as she rummages through the drawers, would you be so kind as to roll your wits plus insight or awareness? You need a DC 2 so that you are able to find it in enough time where there is an opportunity to potentially wrestle it on before the matron reaches the point of too far gone.
Okay, you said awareness or which?
Insight. And like the lightning that struck Ben Franklin's kite, you are there when you need to be. The stories that will be told or can be told about your miraculous insight, your ability to see beyond sight, is something that no one ever knows. Because you find it quickly and begin immediately wrestling with Stella. And immediately seeing the effects of the kiss this close on someone that you consider a work friend, a work wife to be more exact. It has a certain finality there. And while you don't have bloodhound, you are not a resonance expert, all of the signs that you missed along the way come rearing their ugly head as knee in Stella's back, her arms struggling to reach you, the mask being dragged down across her face like a cheese grater until it slaps into place and you pull tight and firm. And even still, the strength that she has is enough where you are literally standing holding on to the buckles in both hands on her back. She is literally that strong. You are literally applying every ounce that you have to not be bucked free or thrown free. And only because you are standing and you have the full distance of your height as leverage are you able to do so. It is clear, not only in this moment, but in the previous two where you physically had to handle Stella, that she is in fact quite monstrously strong for her age, for her height, for her seeming. And that bears certain questions to be answered later. And those questions rear their head to be put away for later, to have a pin stuck in them to be addressed somewhere down the line, as still the matron lays there wasting away because that amount of blood loss that quickly is particularly damaging. There are far more peaceful ways to go, something a little bit safer, something not quite as damaging. Something like maybe a gunshot or a shotgun blast to the head would have been far easier than what had been wreaked on her. Death by pleasure is still death, and there's a portion of the human mind that just refuses and rebels, even as it is drowned in all of that metaphysical chemically induced pleasure, beating against her willpower and her reserves over and over and over and over again. But 1 plus 1 is 2, but 1 and 1 is 11, and that's where Dia finds herself. The reason why Stella chose, in her animalistic state, Faye over the matron. There's a scent to the matron's blood, a hint of something that is not quite hale and hearty. There is something there that for all of the pleasure, all of that blood causes your beast, there's also a wariness. It's kind of the scent of drugged meat that a bear, even a hungry one, will think twice before consuming. It's the staked out goat where you know there may be hunters nearby, as the tiger. There's something unresolved there in the matron's blood, and it is filling the room. It is drowning her sense of taste. Speaking of drowning your sense of taste, in a situation such as this, waiting outside of the club, the want of a cigarette. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I skipped ahead. Do forgive me. There's something about the scent of blood, with all that comes from life, that makes it enjoyable. Because while it is only the secondary option to what the beast inside of every kindred wants, it is a close way to pacify it. Because the beast doesn't want the blood. The beast doesn't want even the pleasure and pain of ending another thing physically. It wants the soul. It wants to drink down the existence, the immortal being of its victim. It wants all of that magic. And it craves it on such a level that only death will satiate it. Only the complete swallowing of all that that being may ever be and ever could be will truly satiate it. And having drink after drink of these docile, peaceful, farm-raised donors causes it to wrinkle its nose, causes it to whisper and tempt and promise that only death would do it. You can drink all night and never have enough. And if you are the only one to end one of these donors, you are still within your contract. And the beauty of it all, even if you are not the only one moves on to end one of these donors, well, you don't have to pay for it. Frost does.
Oh, man. It's like being a kid in a candy shop.
You have a blank check that Frost gave to a dragon. A blank check to be used by that dragon to hit its heart's content. A blank check that literally is the first time you've ever seen any being, kindred or otherwise, willingly sign themselves away into slavery. Because that's what it is. He won't be stepping and fetching anything. He won't be engaging in any agricultural labor, but based on the cast, the walking cast that is covering his foot, the outcome will be far more debilitating. Can you imagine willingly being turned into a cross of a Nosferatu and a Lupine? Because that's what lays in store for Frost.
I mean, he's the one who made the deal.
Yeah, didn't he? He is Senator White's, the Nosferatu's closest ally in Thornton Township's chief of security. He is her body man. He is her protector. And he signed himself away to the hands of a Samich. Who, wait, didn't he say he worked for the Volvad? Or worked with the Volvad? Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your intelligence and politics? Or intelligence and leadership if you have it. Whichever is higher.
That would be intelligence and... It's just intelligence.
Excellent. Give that a roll. Roll as high as you can.
Uno.
There's a very real tactic that even gangs use. What they will do is throw a party. Now it seems like it's very counterintuitive to spend money on a rival, or as the kids say now, on an ops. But the ops never realizes that the party that they are at is being sponsored by their enemy. They have a good time. They slowly begin to take that party and the people there as friends and allies, as a place of safety. And little by little, they sign themselves over more and more to their op, to their enemy, to their rival. So when the moment comes where the bill comes due, based on their own sense of ethic, based on their own understanding that these guys aren't as bad as all of that, they will side with the rival over their own interests. It looks bad, because it is. If Frost is a man of his word, he owes a debt to someone who willingly works with, who idolizes and works for the Voavad. Being a man, a person of his word, if the chips are down and there's a decision that needs to be made between the senator and the Voavad, as a being of honor, the only recourse that Frost would have would be to remove himself from having to make that choice. Otherwise, there is but one answer to that: the Voavad all the way.
With that in mind, Muzan is going to turn to Frost and just pose a quick question to him. So, I know you talk big back there wanting to write this blank check, but let me just make sure that you really understand what you're getting yourself into. You're signing yourself away to a man who basically worships our enemy for a drink. Are you really willing to follow through with this? Is this really what you want to do? Are you that desperate to eat someone who you consider to be a criminal?
You understand? I am a man of my word. I gave my word. We have the deal. Just eat up. Just don't kill anybody, all right?
Frost, yeah, young. So, let me give you a little bit of advice. Sometimes you gotta think further ahead than just what your stomach is telling you. You sign yourself over to the Voivod's back alley doctor here. You're basically signing your loyalty over as well.
No, that's not what that means. He just gets to bring my beast out to the surface.
Muzan gives him a look of like, are you serious? Are you kidding me right now? Like, you don't... So, you really think that's all he's gonna have you do? You wrote him a blank check. A blank check means he can do whatever he wants. That, and Muzan points to the foot, that was, as he put it, a down payment. Now look, if you're serious about this, if you really want to go through with this, then fine. I'm not gonna stop you. I don't like to infringe on other people's freedoms, as it were. But
You don't? Why are we here then? Says Dan. We could have made him hunt the old-fashioned way. He could have got his balls wet. But instead, we're here. Him and his immature idea of right and wrong.
Muzan turns slowly towards Dan Sedan and says, "This was your idea."
You wanted criminals. I don't know nothing but criminals, and they all come here when they need to be helped. And yeah, I kind of thought the place is kind of gross and it'd freak everybody out, and we turn around and we leave. And then no Glory Boy here would still be down for everything that came.
Well, in theory, we can still back out. None of us have fed on anyone here.
He looks at Frost, very red lips. I ain't too sure about that. And look at your buddy over there. And he points to David, who is laying on the side, shallowly breathing. Very much so alive. Just, well, fed on. And there's not...
Muzan just face palms. Well, there went that idea. Alright, I guess we're in it now.
I mean, I paid the down payment. We didn't do anything else except for the feed, so we can leave and just don't come back, right? Kid, that's not the way that works. You don't have to come back. You do have to honor the deal. Of course, you don't have to honor the deal. I ain't gonna tell nobody that you're a Welch. But then, if you're a Welch, that makes you a criminal. Huh. Funny. That's ironic. You are your own feeding type. Frost growls. And it is that growl that the smallest dog in the yard makes when it is literally doesn't mind the harm that will befall it when challenging a stronger, older dog in the yard. The choice of violence is in that ground. Like, damn the consequences. I'm going to have my pound of flesh, even if I have to tear it out piece by piece over time.
Calm down, Frost. You already got your fill. Too late to back out now. Dan,
He set us up, or more politely, he set me up for this. Who was he working for anyway?
me.
Really? You think that?
Here, I'll ask him. Dan, who you working for?
You're the boss. We made a deal.
See?
And you called me naive. Come on, let's get out of here.
I didn't have my food yet.
After that speech, you really are... Oh, fine.
Hey, it was too late, apparently. You already had your meal, I may as well get mine. I ain't losing anything from it. You're the one who wrote the check, remember?
You selfish bastard. And he moves to the door, crosses his arm across his chest. And the idea of him sulking somehow ratchets the comedy up exponentially. Physically, in appearance, he is the oldest kindred present, based on looks. His graying hair is slightly haggard, usual expression. Physically, he died at a much older state of life than any of you. It's harder to tell with you and Dancer Dan, but it is very much apparent when comparing him to Zach or Dia. She clearly, for all of that, is the most youthful of the lot of them. Speaking of youthful, a lot of you, blood being shared and offered to the gods above, waiting on the slaves, I mean waiting on the donors, Zach finds themselves with a moment to think, a moment to consider all that is transpiring at a rapid pace. It's as if every decision along the way has led to this moment to get them to really concentrate or contemplate what they value. They've already done things they didn't think possible. They visited 5 different cities. They played in each one. They stood up to an actual armed assault on a multiplicity of instances. They've survived a wizard's attacks. They've survived the breaking of their heart into a million pieces. They have survived all the slings and arrows of this life as a politically involved kindred. And now they're waiting on blood slaves that you are sure will, in fact, no longer exist after tonight. You've been at this for more than a night, and you even have ended donors' lives. What chance does Stella have of not doing that?
And this is a very real possibility that Zach is now considering. Of course, he's not just thinking about that. He's also considering the fact that Stella's brother is on the way. So those donors might not be the only ones dying tonight.
No, they would not. Well, the question stands. What would you do if your family member, as far as you could tell, was killed by a bunch of kindred you don't know.
But that's just it. Zach was an only child that was not on good terms with his parents. So he's never really had anyone in his life that he really considered family until he joined the coterie. So if that's stewing in his mind while thinking about that, his concept of family is not exactly conventional.
Oh, that's always fun.
In fact, his concept of a lot of things isn't exactly conventional.
Well, not being conventional is one thing, but having something of value taken from you by people that you don't know, what would be his response? What price would he exact if he could?
And that is a question he is now asking himself. What he would do if he were in Lucio's position. But the problem is there's too many thoughts running through his head at once for him to focus on any one thing.
Oh, luckily. It's a nice night. The weather's temperate. The street isn't as active as usual. Not as many cars going east and west. There's not as much activity that you can hear from the actual club district not far from where you all are. In fact, if you quiet the voices bombarding around his head, Zach is able to hear the activity in the city. He's able to hear with as close as the Biscuiteers is to the formerly established downtown party area. Because 142nd, despite all the trains that intersect just west of there, just past Lincoln Avenue, is, well, to be perfectly honest, it's on the major road that leads into the downtown area. You're just north of Lincoln and east of Lincoln as it runs in a diagonal northwest to southeast. So you standing here with the Rosie not in operation because of the things that have happened over the last few nights, you're able to get a feel for how awake Dalton is right now. And that's the problem. It's far too awake. There's still too much going on out there in the night for this hour of the evening. Taurus is never as busy as you can hear they are from where you stand. They're about, a little bit more than a block east of where you are, just before you get to Cottage Grove. To your west, you have, Sharks, which, again, like everything else, is open late because between where the Queen of Spades was, where the Harmony is, where the Biscuiteers and the Rosie are, this is party central. Everyone travails and travels over 142nd Street. And the city's too active. There's too much energy out there in the night. So as a pair of lights washes over you and eases into the parking lot, it is less shocking than it should be. Most of the word on the street, people know that the Rosie and the Pisketeers are closed. Word is said that someone got sick, or people got shot, or someone got stabbed. Gossip doing what gossip does. There's police investigations, all sorts of things are hitting the scuttlebutt. But as you wait for the donors, and the tallish, pale woman with dark hair steps out of the Lyft. Oh wait, Uber. Oh shit, they just have a ride-share license, because you see the Lyft little pink sign. You see the Uber glowing white and black sign in the top left. You see the several other rideshare program stickers in the windshield of the car. And then the real twist of the dagger, they are actually also an actual cab. It's not an unmarked personal private vehicle. It is Midway Taxi Company. And as this woman steps out, you're not sure whether she's one of the donors. Dax, for the record, are you blushed?
Not at the moment.
Dax, are you blushed?
Going to a club, she would be.
So, well, you're blushed, and you pass as human on more than a cursory first look. The local celebrity, that's what Zach Volk here is. They're a club owner. They run the major party club there in Harvey, the Rosie 2, which is a hub of activity that is surprising, because Harvey's not all that when it comes to clubs. Yet they attract a steady, consistent business. Rumors are that you can find whatever you need at the Rosie 2. So recognizing them in their shock of auburn reddish hair is not hard. What is hard is keeping down the fact that they are so clearly kindred, as you are surprised that the block is encircled right now with hunters.
She will sigh quietly to herself, pinch the bridge of her nose, go in the club, I guess. Or find a seat in the club if she's already in.
Oh no, you're on the eastern side of the building, across the reservoir to your right, north of the parking lot. Across the reservoir, you can see a building that's just equally as closed as this one. It is the Rosie, which now you know where the Rosie is, and the Rosie 2, Zach being here isn't that strange after all, but it's still the fact that they're standing here, clearly a kindred, and there's not a hunter with their sights locked in and dialed on, because Zach is not an unknown personage as far as the party circuit. You've heard several bootleg tracks released by them or on behalf of them. People who have recorded their jam sessions or their full-fledged impromptu concerts while they've been on stage at the Rosie or the Rosie 2. And moving toward the Pisketeers, his nondescript end of the workday sports bar look does not seem to be the place that you've heard of. It is a place where kindred can be kindred in the right measure. It is a place where local celebrities hobnob with those who have been dead for centuries, for decades, for months, and never realize it. It is, as far as you are aware, the place to go party if you are a kindred, or you just want to be part of the rarefied air that provides. Looking at the building in front of you, it is hard to see that as an actual possibility.
Well, looks can be deceiving.
So the club-dressed woman begins moving past you, Zach. The donors moving to head into the building, but you thought there'd be more than just one.
And that strikes him as very odd. It leads him to wonder, is this a donor, or is this someone coming to the Pisketeers looking for a good time? Because right now he has no way of knowing that Dax is kindred. But this curiosity is enough to kind of snap him out of his current stance and walk over towards Dax and ask if he can help her with anything. That is assuming Dax hasn't walked too far away.
Nope, they're moving directly towards you. You're right by the door heading in.
She will look Zach up and down for a moment and say, I'm sorry, was this a private party?
Not exactly. In fact, the night is a little rough at the moment. But he doesn't elaborate on just what he means by that.
Choppy waters make for interesting boat trips.
And of course, when I see a new face, I can't help but be a little curious. So, business, pleasure, or a little bit of both?
Do they need to be mutually exclusive?
Since when are they ever?
So am I to assume you are the concierge?
Okay, out of character, concierge. I need to look up the definition of that, unless someone's going to provide it.
Like the host.
Yeah, easy is the master of the house, the concierge. The same role that the matron plays when making sure the donors entertain the right person, whether sexual or for blood.
Okay, Zach actually would know the definition of this. And he says, I am in fact not. They are she is inside.
All right. Well, can I go in then?
Hey, Volkir! Says the 4 women stepping out of the minivan Uber that is now driving away. Oh my god. The matron called. We're on our way. Who is it? Is it? Tell me they're at least attractive. I really don't like that. The Chinese guy that you keep saying is your boy toy. Oh my god. He is such a lech. My god. Please don't let it be him. Do you know who we're here for?
I will guide you far. And he moves over towards them and basically he gently ushers them to where Dia and Stella are. Basically leaving it up to Dax whether or not she follows.
So you take the girls in through the bar down into the actual Pisketeers. While that is happening, does Dax allow themselves to be swept up into the gaggle of associates moving, or do they wait outside?
They will go inside. This is a good opportunity to mingle with the locals and not wait in line.
Entering in through the main door that takes everyone through, you pass through the sports bar, and it is 100% exactly what you would expect in a sports bar. There's still the scent of day-to-day drudgery and depression, with its hopes and dreams resting on illusory aspects such as physical skill at running the ball, or catching the ball, or dribbling the ball, or making someone else miss the ball, with the occasional party being thrown over an extraordinarily expressive display of violence at the hands of someone punching or kicking someone else. Luckily, you don't have to be inundated with that level of adrenaline release and fantasy adoration, because the sports bar itself is actually closed. The lights are on, and you see a few staff members cleaning. And that's all they're doing. There's not as many waitresses as could be on the floor. There's no bartenders on the floor. And everyone's sweeping or tending or standing in a corner gossiping as they vape their minds away. Zach leads you all through them, past them, down into an alcove that shouldn't lead anywhere, but instead opens to a pair of stairwells that lead down. The brickwork is the sort of thing that architectural nerds would marvel at. It's inlaid with various patterns from the different bricks used to form its own art. There's no other way to put it. There was mechanical skill and engineering in place, but the sheer skill used to do so is an art unto itself. And it is, if you take the moment, or if that is your cup of tea, to notice there's an art focus that has not been seen since. And it's definitely something that is the original, the put in from the beginning. And as you enter into the real Pisketeers, the actual Pisketeers, you realize why the rumors of the place are what they are. Coming down the stairs to your left, there is a wall of mirrors, making the space seem 3 and 4 times larger than what it actually is. But that wall of mirrors reflects the club itself, and there are various shades. There's various tables and booths, and they're for all sorts of heights. Unlike the usual standard plastic cookie cutter furniture of today, this has been crafted, carved, and built to accommodate specific body shapes and styles to be the most comfortable for certain people. And each of the booths is its own private world. Each of the tables and chairs designed to be as comfortable and inviting as possible, so that you could be seen and unseen both at once. And then the part that sucks is that no one is here. The stage in the corner unlit, the musical instruments unplayed, the bar polished to perfection, and not a soul in presence. And Zach continues leading you through. The bar gives way to stoneworking, a ceiling carved from the rock itself, which leads into various different suites, various different rooms. Zach picks one and opens the door. Laying on the floor is a red-haired girl, about 19, 20, her face looking exactly as one would expect when witnessing and viewing the horror that is reality, that monsters exist in the dark, that no one is as safe as they ever think they are, and that within a moment's notice, everything that you are can be drunk like a Capri Sun down some monster's gullet. About 15 feet further into the space, into the suite, this room that opens into other rooms, is a raven-haired Amazon. Her skin slightly darker than milk chocolate. Her muscles straining as she stands on the back of a tall, thin, ebony-haired woman with a gag in place. About 3 feet past them, laying on the floor, bleeding in the pool of their own life, is what can best be described as a female Alfred Pennyworth. Stately, even in disrepair, and the ruined savaging of several bite marks along her arm, up her neck, down her shoulder. She, even in this wreck and ruin, seems very much the person to be in control and be in fact calming down the person who attempted to victimize them, her eyes remaining steely and not completely watered over in what normally happens when people die in such a gruesome and violent manner. Her eyes are clear, and they're looking at the woman being gagged by the Amazon. They look and take in these last few moments, instead of looking inward and regretting their life flashing behind their eyes.
Well, this is a strange situation to just walk into. She will try to ascertain exactly what sort of aggressions are going on.
The girls scream, alerting you, Dia, that you are not alone. Zach is standing in the doorway with 4 of the usual donors, 4 of the more skilled donors. They're so skilled, in fact, that occasionally you have had to have words with them and the matron to keep them from rifling the would-be abusers' pockets. Those who have used their services when these 4 are working tandem together are the prey, because they will get promises of funding and funds themselves and access to various other things that can make them money. These are the 4 that if any donor were capable of truly pulling the wool over someone's eye, especially a kindred, these would be the 4 that you would call to do so. And they are, as one would expect, when seeing the matron laid so low, when seeing more of the matron than her hands and her face exposed to the air, shocked. Their scream and "Oh my God!" brings Dia standing on Stella's back to the moment that they are no longer alone.
As soon as Dia sees Zach, it's automatic. Zachary, save the matron. She's going to die if we don't do anything. Don't save her like we saved Stella, but save her if you can. Girls, please step out into the hallway and wait for me. I will be out in a moment. Calm down. Screaming is not helping.
And Zach immediately starts looking around for a first aid kit, hearing not to save people the way he normally does.
As Zach moves from the door and begins rifling drawers, Muzan, you catch that last bit. You and Dancer are back. Frost deciding, once you escape from the doctor's clutches, to take a run. He shifted in front of you, very much potentially viewable by anyone who happened to be looking out their window or in the area, turned into a wolf and ran.
Do I notice Muzan now too?
Yes, Muzan is there, silent as ever, standing just behind Dax's left and right shoulder is Dancer Dan and Muzan.
Muzan, thank God you're so much stronger than me. Please, come help me hold Stella.
What the fuck happened? I was gone for 20 minutes.
We'll explain once we have calmed things down, but you left me with very little choice in saving her life. Had you all stayed, I might have had enough blood to keep her ghouled and alive. We did not. We had me and Zach. So, it is what the fuck it is. I have a child. Please help me restrain her.
You have a what?
I don't need a DNA test, do I?
Dan, shut up.
Alright, fine. You know what? Fuck it. Questions are for later. Give me the frickin' whatever the hell this thing is. Is that a gag?
Oh yeah, that's to make it easy to, insert certain things to punish or reward, as the case may be.
Just keep
You
yourself
be
in basic
quiet.
things, okay?
And you give me the straps.
As you all change hand or change ownership of the newly, freshly minted child who should not be as strong as they are, there is clearly something else going on there, because you've wrestled with a few Toreador, not to say that's something you're exactly proud of, but typically that strength is not something that comes, and yet it's there. The promise of it. It's that, oh my god, you just bench 160, no sweat, you haven't lifted before? There's promise there yet. And while that is happening, and while Muzan moves past the donors who are backing out of the room to give Zach room, to give Dia room, to give the room, still looking, poking, glancing as they try to back away and follow instructions, Dan looks at Dax. Didn't she tell you what, 5 to give everybody room? Unless of course you want to, go put your hand inside the inside our new pet's mouth. Remember, she don't bite, and I'll be fine.
I'm sorry?
You have a dog that's big and trying to bite your guests, and you tell them to calm them down. Even though you know the dog is going to bite, you always tell them, the dog's not going to bite. You're fine. He might lick you to death. Well, she may lick you to death, although she did kill the other guy. Don't worry about that. Look, shouldn't you be with the other girls?
Definitely not.
Oh, so you think you're better than them, huh? Are you trying to buck for the matron position? It's clear that the position's going to be opening up soon.
No, I'm not interested in any sort of matron position.
Damn shame. Hey, Mozan, this one might be more up your alley. She's a tough cookie. How many?
Right, tell her to come here.
There you go. You got your invite. You're on the main stage. You're on the main ring. Go. Now to describe Dan for Dax, who you haven't met before, his face looks as what would happen if it was made out of wax and held too close to a fire for far too long. Except for it is not wax. It is human flesh, burned and scarred, and very much looking as if he should always be wearing a gimp mask or something more rewarding to the eye.
Dax will kind of shake her head with a soft chuckle and move past and go check on that girl who's on the floor.
There are two things that happen when flooded with adrenaline. Either you're forced to act, there's a shaking and a twitching, a vibration as the energy surges through you. Or, in this case, the other case, when over-flooded with endorphins and adrenaline and several other chemicals that are the exact same no matter whether you're excited or whether you're fearful. You freeze. You become the stone statues of myth. Those brave warriors who went to behead or defeat Medusa, who were turned to stone. This is what that actually was. Frozen catatonically, eyes open, taking in the world, but yet unable to process anything save what goes on in the dark of one's mind. That's what is happening.
She will look her in the eyes, say, "Hello, are you in there?" Kind of pat her cheek gently.
As that is happening, Zach appears with a medical case, which is everything but first aid. This is not a patch and pray. This is a, oh my God, you're having a baby, good thing we're prepared for it, medical bag. Oh my God, you broke your arm. Good thing we're prepared for at least one break. Hopefully you don't have to. Medical, bad. Oh my God, this is just normally would be an in-office surgery, but luckily we packed this bag appropriately. Medical, bad. It is roughly the size of a medium duffel, which means you could pack like 9 days of clothes in it, and it is overstuffed enough that it seems fluffy. The Swedish cross on the bag, the only thing denoting it as medical. Luckily, Zach's heightened senses allowed them to pick up on the several sterilization chemicals inside, the several cleaning agents inside, the several sealed packages of things that smell neutered of everything living inside. And they step out of the adjoining room, the bag slung across one shoulder. Dax crouched over Faye. Muzan holding Stella. For all of her strength, for all of her determination, there is very little that they can do when compared to his experienced use of kindred strength, not the potential that lies there in Stella. Dia stands looking over the scene, the matron leaking into nothingness. Normally, for someone who'd adventured with you all, someone who went into the fray, into the wild of the world you inhabit with you all, there would be a semblance of loss. There would be a weight of, we have to save them, we have to keep them from slipping away because they are denied their just rewards. Because once you become kindred, heaven is not an option, and hell, while a promise, can be avoided. Because the weight of your soul amounts to much of nothing. Fool the judge, the souls, fool the balance that you're compared against. Or worse yet, you're just shunted into the nothingness. So you don't get any desserts, just to earn otherwise. But for the matron, she didn't adventure. She didn't go into the fray. No, instead, she managed the affairs. She helped the donors polish their training. She helped the customers achieve their best nights. She kept a calm, level head with all the chaos and acted as a beacon of support for every person that has entered into this roof. And she did all of that, and so much more, while dying. Has been dying for 2 years. He's been fighting it for 2 years. This place had become her life, and she wanted something to continue beyond her existence, which is the reason why Nicole stopped feeding on her regularly. And then when she did, only enough to ensure that she felt the brush of pleasure that is the kiss and nothing more. That's the reason why when danger hit and everyone was told to flee, she stayed. And it's the reason why even being closed, non-operational, not having enough donors, she stayed. With Zach's heightened senses, in this moment, she can smell the disease that had been rifling through the matron's life. She can smell the sickness that had consumed her and had been consuming her from within. She knows, well, Zach knows more in inhaling that scent as she grows close, as they grow closer to the matron, that there's but 2 ways out of it: a quick death or the embrace.
But, of course, with Dia having told Zack not to save people the way he normally does, that removes the embrace as an option. As he looks inside the kit, he tries to see if there is anything at all that can possibly help with the wounds.
Oh, there's tons that can help with the wound. But out of kindness, out of respect for the efforts paid, the only thing that really is available, there's two choices. There is a road that lies before you. And because of the matron's efforts to protect the business interests of the code, being steadfastly loyal even with everything that has been happening to them, if there's any kindness in that, there's but two choices, either embrace or quick death, because it is clear that the disease has progressed to the point where the only thing that will come of this is a very slow and painful ending. Each moment that they have lived thus far in quiet servitude and loyalty has been in pain. Each moment moving forward only more so. The savaging of their flesh by Stella, the time and energy needed to heal that, even if you were to have Stella lick each and every bite wound, the damage has been done. The body has been riddled, already being consumed from within. This just exacerbates things to the point where you have a choice. Or you can damn all of that idea of human kindness and compassion and let them suffer. Save them so that their days moving forward and their nights that follow are nothing but pain. Nothing but continued magnified pain. Because you will both brought a child into the world.
And as much as Zack would really like to do the matron of kindness, he's already messed up one order, so he's not going to risk ticking Dia off any further by defying another. He's going to do everything he can to save the matron. But he's going to hate every second of it because that part of his humanity is saying just end this poor woman's suffering, but the part of him that's loyal to Dia is saying keep her alive at all costs. And right now, the loyalty to Dia is speaking louder than his humanity.
And there it is. As Zack reaches forward to try to snap Faye out of that drowning bit of chemical soup bombarding her inside to bring her back to this moment.
Storyteller, I have a quick question. Are we still all linked to each other? Like we can feel each other's feelings and stuff?
Yes. The vinculum is still active.
Dia would feel that Zack's being stuck trying to decide what to do and knowing what they know, kind of.
Oh, Zack's already decided what to do.
No, when you were saying that he's trying to figure it out. With that's the case and they're feeling that from Zack, I think that would change what Dia would ask them to do. Because if the matron's too far gone, we can't make another child for tonight. We can't do that with the fact that Stella is already so hard to control. Dia would change her orders to Zack enough to say, just let her go.
Hearing this, as everyone's in the room together, what do you mean let her go? Stella did this. Save her. You did so much to save Stella. And right before your eyes, that youthful, there's always a tomorrow light begins shining out of those eyes that had before not collected any light in front of you. That passion of the immortal youth rouses Faye back to this moment, and there she is, speaking out of turn, as you are sure someone like her always does. There she is, the reckless child, rising to her feet in the circle of immortal monsters and willing to speak to them as if they are parents who just don't understand.
Oh, good. You're with us.
Who are
Anyone
you?
mind?
Are you with
anyone
them? Are you Kendra too?
I am not with them. It'd be nice if someone could explain what I've walked into here.
It would also be nice if someone could explain why you're here. Who are you?
Wait, she's not with you? She's not.
No.
Toner? Faye takes a step back. And you can tell that she's looking for something. She's patting her pocket as she's keeping an eye on Dax, but she's looking for something that is no longer on her person.
Well, I did ask first.
Dia sighs. I don't know who you are, and this is not the best time to have guests, but I suppose since you are here in the midst of all this, I can explain fairly quickly. You were left charge of this young lady that is just speaking and her friend here. Some strange point in the night, I don't know what happened, but she started to bleed from every pore on her body, and there was very little else we could do. She needed to be saved. This is the situation we're in. You know how children are when they first rise. They are fairly hungry. She attacked the matron. The matron is dying. As for what is going on, Faye, and why we cannot save her, would you prolong her suffering, Faye? She's dying from cancer. It is very painful.
Won't she not be in pain anymore if you helped her like you helped Stella?
No, that is not how it works. You
It's also
still
not much
feel
help.
pain. You still feel pain. It would be excruciating for her. I don't wish for her to suffer any further. I did not know she was suffering until this evening because she hides it well. As a last kindness, I would like this to be ended quickly. And that we get Stella under control so that we can explain to her how the way of the world works. To whomever you are, please take Faye with you out of the room.
That's not fair.
Dear child, not a lot in the world is fair, and you will come to understand that if you live any longer past your 30s. Please.
But you guys are immortal. You have forever to make real changes, and you don't. And she starts backing away, and that cathartic release that needed that scream, that needed that yell, needed that vindication of some release of all of those pent up, balled up emotions and the chemicals mixing with them, bouncing off of her insides, happens. You've seen people die inside before. You've seen people die in all actuality before. But having an infinite faith that with enough effort, anything can be made better. The injustices of the past can be righted with simple, direct action. That faith and belief in humanity and the world changing because of the efforts of those involved, that naive innocence you have never watched die. You've never watched that hope vanish in such a quick and devastating moment. As the tears immediately flood her eyes and begin trailing down her cheeks, that same darkening of the light that you watched in Stella, spurred on by the death of the person and the birth of the beast. Even with all of that happening to Stella, there was still and still is a hope to cling to life, to cling to existence. But Faye doesn't have the effort and the assistance of something supernal. Faye has the realizations that the monsters will always win, that suffering will always be. Even when things could be done, they won't be done. Watching that hope die, to be murdered by the understanding as to the way the world works, is a first.
That's not exactly true. Let's get you cleaned up, sweetie. Maybe a drink. Come with me.
Like a lamb led to slaughter, following the goat that the goat that knows the way to freedom. Because after all, a goat would chew its way through a mile of barbed wire to escape pain. A goat would fight a lion for the chance to breathe just a second longer. So a goat would not willingly head to death. That's the reason why the flock of sheep will always follow a goat blindly into the corridors that grow smaller and smaller, tighter and tighter. Escape back the way you came, growing more impossible with each step. Yeah, because you are following the goat, you know things will work out. And that same innocent following, just broken of it all, is what possesses Faye. Monster though you might be, you're not with them, you're not with the rest of the world, so she walks alone. Her steps far lighter than they should be. Unable to stop the tears from streaking across her cheeks, but unwilling to stand there and watch their friend become the monster. Unwilling to watch the death of the matron. Unwilling to be awash in the weight of all of that in that room. An unknown kindred. She follows along, her head lightly bobbing in response, not trusting her voice did not come out strained and cracked.
And while that's happening, Zach is looking at the matron and slowly pulls out his knife and looks to Dan, looks back at the matron, and does what his humanity told him to do before Dia told him to do it.
So he cuts himself and offers his vitae to the matron to bring her into this world of night.
No, that's what his... No. His humanity was telling him to end the poor woman's suffering. It's not himself that he cuts.
So does he plunge his knife into her heart, ending it quickly? Does he slit her throat? Does he try to disembowel her? Does he attempt to wring her dry of all
The heart.
blood that she's not using any longer?
the heart, because he sees either that or the brain as the quickest and least painful. But he goes for the heart.
There is a mercy in a quick kill. A mercy for some, but being the hand of destruction, being the right hand of the devil himself is never an easy thing. The funny aspect of it, the twisted irony of it all, is that over time, the ending of things becomes force of habit. The ending becomes all there is for some. It's a testament to the human mind that provides ambulatory power to the corpse that is the kindred, can grow accustomed to anything. Luckily, by some measure of that word's definition, Zach has not grown accustomed to ending anything. His hands steady from all of the years playing guitar. His heart heavy, despite that unsteadiness of the soul, still follows through and applies what mercy he can to the moment. A slight tremulation to his hand afterwards, however, is sign enough that there is another stain on his heart. The immediate exsanguination of the matron amidst all of the rack and ruin that Stella visited upon her, amidst all of the blood-splattered class that the matron displayed. There is a punctuation to the death of innocence that Faye experienced, a punctuation to the ending of Stella's mortal existence, a punctuation to a night, a week, a month, a moment that has been stretched out ad nauseum until it is nearly broken. It's the final push, and Stella's straining against the harness, her hands unable to reach those holding her still. And the beast ceases its actions, ceases its straining efforts. Dancer finally moves from his position, having looked out the door, watching Dax and Faye make their way out of the alcove into the bar itself and settle at the well-stocked bar at the heart of the Biscuiteers. He looks back in the room and looks at the tableau before him. And normally he'd make a joke. He'd make a statement of the most simple and direct meaning. But he doesn't have words. He doesn't have the vocabulary needed to drive home all that he misses feeling. Doesn't have the vocabulary to explain what it is he's actually feeling. He just looks.
Yeah, having watched Zach finish what they asked him to. Zach, I know you following my orders so that the blood is on my hands and not yours. Blood for Stella is also on my hands and not yours. And the death of Faye's hope is also on my hands and not yours. We did what we could. Unfortunately, I am quite hungry right now, so I am not sure what should come next. We should definitely get Stella under control and more fed and then I will feed myself. But until then, I cannot trust her feed herself. So I will go get one of the girls. And Dia sticks her head out of the doorway. And looks for the closest to her. I know you're scared, my darlings, but please. I need one of you to come to me. I will be right here at your side. And will do my absolute best to let no harm come to you.
So, just so that I'm clear, a bit of OOC, so that we can paint the scene together and understand where we are. The matron's cooling corpse is on the floor in front of Zach, who's crouched over her, his shoes soaking in the blood that is spilling around her. Muzan, the monstrous Nosferatu, was holding the innocent girl that had been their guest for the last few weeks, with a harness designed for sexual gratification of a lesser. Dancer Dan is standing slightly out of the way in that same room where the corpse of the pillar of their community now resides. And you're asking them to step into the room with all of that.
I'm asking them to come to me. I'm not going to have them come all the way in the room. I'm going to open a vein, get the blood I need for Stella, not have them come in the room. No.
If Muzan is able to, he wants to quick shout an order over to Dancer Dan. That new girl, keep an eye on her. Make sure she doesn't drain our other guests dry, alright?
I thought that's why you let us hold to the bar by themselves. Problem dealt with. Nobody could tell about this. But okay, I'll go look.
And Muzan will return his attention back to Stella.
And as he squeezes past, purposely keeping his hand above his elbows, above his shoulders, in the universal sign of I ain't touching nothing, I ain't doing nothing, my hands are up here. The young lady that steps forward, like most of the experienced donors, the efforts of her working out to maintain fit and active are clear. Her skin is smooth and toned, and it's clear that she is engaged in power dynamic play far often enough that she immediately sizes up who's alpha, who's dominant, who's sub, who's a switch. She's just doing all of this math in her head, and you can tell that while she's the closest, she's not the only one. And even as get that money philosophy is going through them, and she's moving closer, a slight frown resting on her brow, her gaze, less than furtively, but yet not quite directly, keep looking from Stella to the matron and back to Dia. From Stella to the matron and back to Dia. It's the sort of look that in any other situation would be the only warning of immediate violence. In any other situation, it's the look of put me in, coach. It's the look of, oh, I'm gonna cut this bitch. It's the look of defiance that says that by any means necessary, I will end you. And all of that in the span of a few seconds. And I blinked away. Nothing. A nanosecond has passed and it's not there. But it is as easy to read, and those who've been in those situations, as black and white text.
Dia catches it and gives them a smile and steps forward, meeting them part of the way. Looking down to their eyes. I had hoped I would not have to do such things. And they are going to use cloud memory.
Okay. How much of their last few moments are you attempting to take?
Mine go back further. I have that too.
Which ability are you using?
Whichever, I think Forgetful Mind would take more away and let her write the narrative.
Yes. Yes, you can.
Just so that it doesn't get undone as she's standing in front of her. She's kind of like body blocking so that they can't see around her what's going on behind as they kind of connect eyes. So she's going to make her forget and then step her away from being able to see what's behind them.
What's the average of your manipulation and charisma? You'll roll that plus your dominate. And make it just one simple roll instead of two.
Charisma's 4. Manipulation is 3. And then dominate is at a level 3. So what are we doing with that one?
So what's the memory you're painting? And because that's manipulation and charisma, average it out is what?
Well, I think it would be 3 plus 3, so that's 6. Right? You said manipulation and charisma averaged plus dominate, which is 3, so 6.
Let her fly.
Oh no! Oh no!
Oh yes.
What memory were you attempting to give her?
That the matron called them in and they got here and had a good time.
Okay. That was the memory you were attempting to place.
It's not 3 hunger. That's what the hell does it.
So while that is the memory you were attempting to place, and while Dia in this moment doesn't know exactly what settled into place in that soft moldable clay that her presence beat into this yielding mind, we'll share a small moment. We'll look through the warm caramel colored eyes that Dia holds as they begin to swirl and magnify till that's all that the lead donor can see. Through that warm caramel glaze that begins to seeming to light up the rest of the world around her, we witness the lead donor arriving just in time, being led down by Zach exactly as it happened, except for as they're led down, the matron is there with them, stroking and caressing them, and talking about how this is their vacation of sorts, that the night's profit hasn't been lost. And she and her girls and the matron find themselves in Dia's bedroom. The suite set aside for initially Nicole, but redesigned and reupholstered and refabricated. It's a sweet environment to play in. And for the first time in all of her years of service, she gets to play not only with the matron, but with Dia as well. And everything's going right with the world. Soft touches, kisses, wine flowing like water. Dia reveals herself. The pseudo-masculine dress being matched by appendages that are completely wholly the stuff of fantasy. And then this fang snapping into place like a cobra's fangs, and the cobra's hoods as Dia flexes, and every muscle jumps to rock hard readiness. And as the fangs sink in and flesh is torn, and she is shared by the matron and Dia, it proves too much, and Dia almost kills her. And Dia drags her out here for not being strong enough. Dia drags her out here in front of her girls to chew her out for not being the donor that she should be, and her life is now forfeit. While we, as viewers, get an opportunity to see what's going on inside her head, what Dia and Muzan see, and what Dax at the bar hears, and what Zach looks up to see, is the lead donor snarl as if she is a rat backed into a corner surrounded by nothing but alley cats with only one way to survive, and that is to take whatever she can with her. And she launches a straight left that is designed to take someone's head off, and it crashes across Dia's jawline, a jawline that has been blessed by the gods and death. So while Dia's head doesn't snap back or doesn't move with the force of it, it is clear that it is a solid hit, and the coolness of Dia's flesh finally makes more than a little sense. She's not a blood freak. She's not here like all of these others simply for the titillation. Dia is that thing that is death incarnate, and as she is coming for all of them, and the lead donor squares up her stance and letting you know that she does take actual boxing classes, that she actually is as physically gifted as she can be and practiced as she must be to remain toned and physically attractive to their clientele. While at the bar, settling down at the bar, you are not surprised that it's well stocked. You are surprised that, if your nose is telling you the truth, that several of the bottles are decanted actual blood, which is a rarity. It is about 5 times as expensive as utilizing the blood dealers to have decanted actual blood stored in a way that can be opened and drunken hours, days, weeks later. The bar itself is stacked and stocked with all manner of vintages. Some of them older enough that they don't even make them anymore. Dax, did we lose you? Okay. Seems as if we're having a small bit of technical difficulties. We're gonna slide right along. So while Dax settles at the bar with Faye, and Muzan and Zach and Dia witness that moment of the lead donor losing her ever-loving mind, what is it that everyone else is doing?
Guess she's just gonna take the hit, but that's kind of the final straw for her, with being hungry at 3 and having tried to make this better. Yeah, she's gonna feed. She's gonna bite into her.
And as Dia begins taking a bite out of crime, Muzan, Zach.
Muzan is a bit taken aback at seeing what just happened, but he's kind of stuck with holding back Stella, so the best he can do is try and,
Well, it's kind of a slaughter happening. You might as well let the kid go and get her feet wet as far as things such as that. After all, you remember your first time? Your blood was running high. There was a broken bat in your hand, and, well, the world turned red. The first moment you've been happy and pleased and not hungry in a very long time. Before then, and a very long time afterwards. You're not sure exactly where that voice came from, because you are perfectly satiated, but you are sure that that's what you're feeling. There's nothing like your first bloodletting, your first real, true slaughter to get your feet wet, to get you on solid ground, to let you know the way that the world works.
you know what? Muzan is going to pull up, or pull Stella up a little bit and say in her ear, listen, you need to take control now. You had your fun, you had your little rampage, now it's time to pull your shit together and start to act like a kindred. I'm gonna let go now. If I have to stop you from killing someone, it ain't gonna be pretty. You understand?
And like a kid that's been offered, you can pick out one toy. If you act a fool, I will make sure you pick out nothing else for a very long time. And released into a toy store. Toys R Us, KB Toys, FAO Schwartz from back in the day. Just walls and walls of magic there to pick one thing from. And her eyes swell in the promise of that thing in the back of her head shutting the fuck up for the first time. And she is game. Silently nodding her head because to speak with this speculum in her throat is a little difficult. And while that's happening, Zach, you overhear this, you witness this. What is it that Zach is doing? she watches the light permanently go off in the matron's eyes. She can feel the energy of that 21 grams dissipating instantaneously from that corpse in front of her. The blood cooling on Zach's shoes and around them, losing its efficacy, losing its effervescence. What is it that Zach does?
Here, Zach looks back to Dia and then looks at the lead donor and then around to everyone, and it's hitting him that this is most likely going to become SOP if he survives the night, so he'd better get over it.
And as that realization washes over Zach, and as Stella is unleashed, chained, but unleashed, and Dia takes that hot, strong blood into themselves, the other donors torn because of the natural physical reactions to watching one of their members be bloodletted, and them understanding the power and magic in that moment and wanting it for themselves, undecided, as the speeding freight train of Stella hits them. At the bar, Dak settling in with Faye looks as Dan suddenly appears there as she's looking over the vintages behind the bar. The sound of a scuffle coming down the hall towards them leaves them in what situation?
She will continue talking softly at Stella, keep her calm as she looks for something to pour her a drink. She will keep an eye on this Dan person, and as well as the scuffle coming down the hall.
Like a tidal wave. What were you saying, Muzan?
I'm sorry, did you mean with Stella or with Faye?
Oh, she's with Faye.
Okay.
Dak is with Faye at the bar. And keeping an eye on the hall, being wary. And there is the idea of normalcy in most people's mind. And while everyone can adjust to a wide variety of what that is as their new normal, until it becomes their old normal, there is still this idea of what normalcy is. Even for the kindred, normalcy is not this. Even for the monsters that they are, this is not normal. This is a heightened moment filled with the pain of all those moments that have come before and the promise of more pain coming down the pipeline. There is the promise of the war beginning between them and the Volvad. There is the promise of hell being rained down on them from Chicago. There is the promise that word will spread and that the hunters on their heels will be waiting behind every bush, around every corner. But in this moment, as blood is flowing and the scent begins to fill the space, as Dia takes what is hers, because she owns them lock, stock, and every iota of their soul, and Stella joins her, taking, instead of savaging, having calm because of the blood flowing through her from Dia, from the matron, and the combined efforts of Dia, Muzan, and Zach's strength in the moment, and hearing Faye's voice. There is some semblance of sanity behind all of that insanity present. And as they let blood and guzzle souls and drink down their fill, the definition and idea of normalcy that any kindred had evaporates, much like the matron's soul. And as we come to grips with that bloodletting and that violence and that emotional paring down, I thank you all for a lovely episode. And I'll see you guys next session. Good night, everybody.
All right, thanks, guys.
Good night, everyone.